Hey boys and girls, welcome back for another day of learning. I'm Miss Casey and this is your teacher, Miss Sarah. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson.
Thank you, Casey. Hello again, boys and girls, and welcome to another day of Building Knowledge with CKLA. And today we will be reading the story of the Maya, the Festival of the First Star. Let's review what we read in our last story, King Pakal's tomb. Kunal and his family were in the big city of Baikal, visiting the pyramids and the market. And at the end of the story, Kunal's father Tun told the children that he would explain why King Khan Balam built such magnificent pyramids. Did you think of any reasons? So let's look back at where the Maya lived. On our globe, we can see that the Maya lived in the area of Mexico and Central America in the rainforest region. And this is the area that we now today call the Yucatan Peninsula. You may remember that from yesterday's story. And we talked about how it would be very easy to remember where the Maya lived after looking at the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's look a little bit closer. And here we see Mexico and Central America in the area of the rainforest. And that's a closer look at where the Mayans lived, around 3,000 years ago. Let's review some vocabulary before today's story. Accurate. Accurate. Let's count how many syllables are in the word accurate. Ready? Accurate. 3. Great job. Accurate means without error, or exactly right, or correct. The boy was pleased when his answer to the teacher's question was accurate. Accurate. Have you been accurate about something before? I bet you have. The next word is festivals. Festivals. Say that word with me. Festivals. Those could be religious, cultural, or other kinds of celebrations. Julie's town had many festivals in the spring. Her favorite was the Strawberry Festival. Have you been to a festival before, boys and girls? Our next word is invented. Invented. That means to create something original or a new way to do something. In class, the children invented a special game to play at the end of the day. Have you invented something before, boys and girls? Come up with something new, a new game, or a new activity? Talk about that with your family at home. Our next word that I want you to look for today is observatories. Wow, that's a big one. Let's count how many syllables are in the word observatories. Let's clap it out. Observatories. Observatories. How many syllables did you count? 5. Great job. Observatories does have 5 syllables. That would be a $10 word for sure. That's a place where you can look at the stars, planets, and weather using special tools. And we're going to talk about those tools in just a minute. Ellen's favorite hobby was visiting observatories and learning about the planets. And in that picture, you see a picture of an older observatory, like one we'll learn about today. And our next vocabulary word is the word planets. Planets. I bet you've all heard of those before. Planets are large bodies in outer space. Mercury, Venus, and Earth are the first 3 planets in our solar system. Planets. And our last word is telescope. Telescope. That's an instrument with lenses inside it which make distant objects appear closer. The girl and her father were able to see the stars very clearly through their telescopes. If you have a telescope at home, you should try looking at the planets tonight. So I want you to be on the lookout for those vocabulary words today, boys and girls. I know you'll do a great job. Today, the title of our story is The Maya, the Festival of the First Star. I wonder why this read aloud might be called the Festival of the First Star. Make your own predictions. Now let's listen as I read to discover why King Khan Balam built such a great tomb and why this read aloud might be called the Festival of the First Star. Remember, at the end of the last story, Kanal's father Tun told the children that they were going to find out why the king built such magnificent tombs. Let's read and find out today. Tun began telling the others about King Pakal, the Mayan king who had ruled Baikal and was buried in a magnificent pyramid tomb in that city. Speaking softly so that other people might not overhear, Tun said, Mayan kings become kings based on who their fathers were. When a king died, if he did not have a son, his brother or nephew became king. Boys and girls, King Pakal was a real king long ago, and in the story today, you will hear true facts made up about him in this made-up story. But King Pakal was different. His mother was the queen. However, according to Mayan tradition, shortly after his 12th birthday, his mother crowned Pakal king. That would be in 6th grade today, boys and girls. But he was worried, some might say, he was not worthy of being a ruler. So he always tried to think extra hard to show what a great ruler he could be. Some people think that is why he built such a great pyramid in which to be buried. I do not know if that is why he built such a great pyramid, but I know to this day King Pakal was the greatest king who ever ruled Baikal. And now his son, King Khan Balam, is a great ruler like his father. But all this is something we do not talk about openly, for King Khan Balam might not like it. He does not want anyone to remember that there was a question about his father being king, for then they might say the same thing about him. Although after all this time, I do not think anyone would do so. Still, do you all understand why I say these things softly? Boys and girls, do you understand why he was speaking so softly to them? Right. Khan Balam is afraid someone will say he cannot be king because his father, King Pakal, was the son of a queen. So he doesn't want the townspeople talking about it. The children whispered, yes, all at the same time. They felt very grown up to have been told this story, and for a while they were quiet as they and the grown-ups rose to their feet and went on exploring the great city. Swiveling his head side to side, determined not to miss anything, Pick told Kanal, I never knew there could be buildings so big. Yes, Kanal agreed, or such a big market with so many things for sale and so many people buying and selling. Or so much noise, Ikal said, and her brother laughed. You see, Ikal covering her ears, I bet the market was very noisy. Well, it's true, she protested. Our village is never this noisy. Chenille said, it is because the festival of the first star. All of these people are here to celebrate the appearance of the first star and the god Kukulkan. The Maya believed the stars and planets were gods, so for hundreds of years the Maya studied the sky very carefully. Remember, boys and girls, the Mayan people worshipped many gods and had many different religions. So as they studied the sky very carefully, they had no telescopes to make distant things look closer and clearer. No one had invented a telescope yet, but the Maya built what we call observatories for studying the sky. To observe means to look carefully at something, so an observatory is a place to observe the sky. Great job, boys and girls. I see most of you have noticed the vocabulary words we reviewed at the beginning of the story. The ancient Maya built observatories atop temples and high places, and the Maya priests studied the sky from them. The Maya scheduled their holidays and many other events to match the movements of stars and planets. The Maya figured out exactly when planets and stars would appear in certain places in the sky. They used this knowledge to create the most accurate calendar in the world. They had festivals centered on the appearance of stars and planets, like the festival of the first star. Boys and girls, this was before telescopes were made and before the very first calendar. Today we know that the festival of the first star was not really about a star at all. What Chenille called the first star is really a planet that looks like a star. We call this planet Venus. And like our own planet Earth, Venus travels in a wide circle around the sun. It is often the first star-like light we see in the evening sky when it is beginning to get dark. Of course, without a telescope, the Maya could not see Venus clearly enough to know it was a planet, so they called it a star. To them, it was the first star and very important. So the festival celebrated the time each year when the first star, which was actually Venus, appeared at a certain place in the sky. People came from far away to take part. During the festival, there would be singing and dancing, and Mayan people would make offerings to the god that the first star represented to them, Kukulkan. While Kanal, Pic, and their families were visiting the city of Baikal, thousands of other Mayan families were visiting too. They all watched the lines of richly dressed nobles walking to the temples. Remember, boys and girls, that the king was the only one allowed in the pyramids and the temples, but all the noblemen would go with the king to visit. They watched the appearance of King Khan Balam with special excitement as he was carried to the foot of a pyramid, walked slowly up the wide steps to the top, and disappeared into the temple. They waited the whole time he was inside, and when he reappeared, they cheered mightily, for they knew he had asked the gods to be kind to his people, and they hoped the gods would agree. As the celebration stretched into the night, Kanal's family looked around in wonder, but the greatest wonder was what was happening to Zook. For as he watched the excitement and joy in his son's face, Zook's face began to show those emotions too. Well into the night, Pic fell asleep, and Zook gently lifted his son into his own powerful arms and carried him, smiling down at his son's face. Kanal was awake long enough to see all this before he too fell asleep and was picked up by his own father. Ikal had already been asleep for an hour, cradled in her mother's arms. They got a good night's sleep before beginning the long canoe journey home. The morning fog cleared in the first hour of their journey home. Pic, turning to call to his cousin Kanal in the other canoe, nearly lost his balance and fell into the river. His father grabbed him by the shoulder and steadied him in the canoe. And then Zook laughed and joked, "My son, you are not a tortoise." Remember, a tortoise is like a turtle. "Do not leap into the water." And hearing his brother laugh, Toon smiled to himself and dipped his paddle once more into the water, glad to be going home. Well, were your predictions correct, boys and girls? What did you think was the reason that King Pakal built such a great tomb? Right, he was trying extra hard to prove that he was a great leader, and he didn't want people to question his right to be king. So why was the festival called the Festival of the First Star? Do you remember? Kanal and his family visited the Festival of the First Star, which actually celebrated the people seeing Venus, which was actually not a star at all, but it is what they believed it was because they didn't have telescopes to be able to see. So do you think this was a good title for the story, the Festival of the First Star? I do too. Now, how did the Maya study the planets and space? Do you remember what they built? Right, it was one of our vocabulary words, an observatory. And when they were in their observatories, do you remember what they were watching? Right, they were watching as the planets and the stars moved over years, and they recorded all of this information to make a calendar. And remember that the read aloud said that the Maya created an accurate calendar, the most accurate in the world. We have calendars today too, but someone long ago had to create the first calendar and track the days, months, and the year. And the Maya were the ones to do that. So in the story, when they talked about an accurate calendar, do you remember what the word accurate means? Right, correct, or right. So let's do an activity with antonyms and synonyms for the word accurate. I'm going to say a sentence. You're going to decide if that sentence is accurate or inaccurate. Accurate means it's right, and inaccurate would mean that it's not right. Let's take a look. The sun comes up in the morning. Is this statement accurate or inaccurate? Right, this statement would be accurate. The sun does come up in the morning. You use your feet when you read. Is this accurate or inaccurate? If you said inaccurate, you were right. We don't need our feet when we read. When it rains, clouds fall from the sky. Read it again. When it rains, clouds fall from the sky. Is this accurate or inaccurate? That's right. That is an inaccurate statement. Clouds do not fall from the sky. And the last one, some trees lose their leaves in the fall. Some trees lose their leaves in the fall. Is this statement accurate, which means right, or inaccurate, which would mean not right? If you said accurate, you were right. Some trees do lose their leaves in the fall. Great job with that activity, boys and girls, learning about the word accurate and inaccurate. Try using one of those words today. Let's take one last look back at the Maya. Remember, we know that when they were farming maize or corn, and that they visited the big city of Baikal, and they had many big cities that they visited. Miss Casey talked to you about their writing, and we know that they had kings as their leaders. Let's talk about their religion. Remember, with their religion, they had many gods that they worshiped, and they built temples and pyramids where the kings would go to worship. Thank you so much for joining me again today, boys and girls. Really enjoyed learning about the Maya with you.
Hey, boys and girls, y'all did such a great job today. I didn't know that the Maya invented the first calendar, so I learned something today too. All rights and credits for today's lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts, and we would like to thank them publicly for sharing their resources with us. The views and opinions displayed and expressed in the lesson are those of Core Knowledge authors and do not necessarily reflect the opinions or official position of the Mississippi Department of Education. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you later, boys and girls.